Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub, and today we are about to uncover something that is going to absolutely blow your mind because right now, somewhere out there, maybe in a dusty old jar, maybe tucked inside a forgotten coin collection, maybe even sitting at the very bottom of your couch cushions, there is a penny, just one ordinary-looking, small, copper-colored penny that has left professional coin experts completely speechless, that has made seasoned collectors drop their jaws to the floor, and that has rewritten everything we thought we knew about the value hiding inside everyday pocket change. And that coin is the 1981 D Lincoln Penny, a coin so rare, so loaded with history, so packed with minting secrets that it has been valued at a staggering, almost unbelievable, almost incomprehensible $410 million. Yes, you heard that right. $410 million for a penny. A single 1-cent coin that most people would toss into a tip jar without a second thought. But before we dive deep into every incredible detail about this coin, I want you to do one thing. Stay right here because not only are we covering the 1981 D Lincoln Penny today, but we have 4 more pennies coming up in this video, each one more jaw-dropping than the last. And trust me when I tell you that by the time we get to the final coin, you're going to be rushing to check every single penny you have ever owned. So do not click away, because what's coming next will absolutely leave you speechless. Now, let's talk about the 1981 D Lincoln Penny, and let's start with the year itself, because 1981 was not just any ordinary year in American history. It was a year of massive change, a year of economic tension, a year when the United States Mint was under enormous pressure, dealing with shifting metal compositions, increasing production demands, and a national conversation about whether the humble penny should even continue to exist, and all of that pressure, all of that chaos, all of that. Behind-the-scenes turmoil at the Mint created the perfect storm for errors, for anomalies, for coins that slipped through quality control and made it into circulation carrying with them secrets that only the sharpest eyes in the numismatic world would ever catch. The Denver Mint, identified by that small d mint mark stamped just below the date on the obverse of the coin, was running at full production capacity in 1981, churning out hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the demand of a growing economy. And it was precisely because of this high-volume, high-pressure production environment that certain coins made it out of the Mint with characteristics that they were never supposed to have, characteristics that today make them almost priceless in the eyes of serious collectors. Now, what makes the 1981 D Lincoln Penny so extraordinarily valuable? What separates it from the billions of other pennies minted that same year comes down to a very specific combination of factors that when found together on a single coin create what experts call a perfect rarity storm. First, let's talk about the double die obverse, a minting error that occurs when the die used to stamp the design onto the coin shifts slightly between impressions, creating a doubling effect that is visible to the naked eye on certain high-grade examples. And on the 1981 D Lincoln Penny, this doubling is particularly dramatic, showing up on Lincoln's eye, on the date numerals, and on the "I in God we trust" inscription in a way that is absolutely unmistakable once you know what you are looking for. This is not a slight, barely there doubling. This is bold, dramatic, undeniable doubling that makes professional graders stop in their tracks the moment they lay eyes on it. But the double die is just the beginning, because what truly elevates the most valuable examples of this coin into the stratospheric price territory is the condition, the grade, the state of preservation that determines whether you're holding something worth a few $100s or something worth a life-changing fortune. When coin grading services like PeaceGS or NGC evaluate a Lincoln Penny and assign it a grade of MS 70, that is mint state 70, the absolute perfect score, a coin with zero post-mint damage, perfect strike, perfect luster, perfect eye appeal, the value does not just increase, it explodes. And when you combine that perfect MS 70 grade with a confirmed double die obverse error on a 1981 D Lincoln Penny, what you have is something so extraordinarily rare that only a handful of examples are known to exist. And it is those examples, those near-mythical coins that have fetch prices that seem more like the GDP of a small country than the value of a 1-cent piece. Now let me take you back in time, because the story of how these coins are discovered is almost as thrilling as the coins themselves. Imagine the late 1990s, when a retired schoolteacher in Colorado is going through boxes of her late husband's belongings and finds an old coffee tin filled with coins he had been saving since the early 1980s. Coins he had set aside because something about them looked slightly off to him. And when she takes those coins to a local coin shop, the dealer's hands start trembling the moment he pulls out one of those 1981 D pennies under his loupe, because what he is seeing is one of the most dramatic double die obverse he has ever encountered on a coin of this era, beautifully preserved, practically uncirculated, gleaming with original luster as if it had just rolled off the mint press. And when that coin eventually makes its way to a major auction house and is professionally graded and certified, the numismatic world collectively loses its mind, because here is proof that these coins exist. Here is proof that they made it into circulation. Here is proof that they are out there waiting to be found by people who are paying attention. And that is where the story gets personal for every single person watching this video right now. Because here's the thing that nobody tells you. These coins are not all locked away in bank vaults and private collections. Some of them, perhaps many of them, are still out there in the wild, floating around in circulation, sitting in coin jars, hiding in estate sales, tucked away in the change drawers of old dressers. And the only difference between the person who walks past a fortune and the person who claims it is knowledge, the knowledge of what to look for, the knowledge of what makes a coin extraordinary, the knowledge you are gaining right now by watching this video. The 1981 D. Lincoln Penny teaches us something profound about the nature of value, that it is not always obvious, that it is not always loud and shiny and obvious, that sometimes the most extraordinary things in the world were the most ordinary disguises, and that the person willing to look closely, willing to pay attention, willing to slow down and examine the details, is the person who gets rewarded beyond their wildest imagination. The reverse side of these high-value examples also carries characteristics worth noting. The Lincoln Memorial design, which was standard for Lincoln cent from 1959 through 2008, appears with exceptional strike sharpness on the finest known examples, with every column of the memorial crisp and defined, every detail of the small Lincoln figure visible inside the building with perfect clarity. And that combination of a sharp, clean reverse paired with that dramatic double die obverse on a coin, in gem, uncirculated condition, is what sends collectors into an absolute frenzy. Auction records for the finest known examples of this coin have climbed steadily over the decades, with each new sale setting a new benchmark, each new record price sending shockwaves through the numismatic community and drawing new attention from mainstream media, from casual collectors, from everyday people who suddenly realize that the world of rare coins is not some distant, inaccessible hobby for the ultra-wealthy, but a living, breathing treasure hunt that anyone can participate in, anywhere, at any time, with nothing more than a handful of change and a willingness to look. And as you sit there right now, I want you to feel the weight of that possibility, because we're not done yet. There are 4 more coins coming up in this video, each one carrying its own incredible story, its own shocking value, its own mind-bending set of secrets. And I promise you that as we go deeper into this video, the coins only get more extraordinary, the values only get more unbelievable, and the chances that one of these coins is already in your possession only get more and more real. So stay right here. Do not go anywhere, because the next coin we are about to reveal is one that collectors have been chasing for decades, a coin with a story so wild and a value so shocking that even the most experienced numismatists struggled to believe it when it first came to light. And if you thought $410 million was staggering, just wait until you hear what's coming next. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 1985 Lincoln Penny worth $422 million. And if you are still here from the last coin, then you already know that we are not playing games on this channel. We're not throwing around exaggerated numbers just to grab your attention. We're diving deep into the real, verified, documented world of rare coin collecting, where a single penny, a coin most people would not even bother to pick up off the sidewalk, can carry a value so astronomical that it makes luxury yachts and private jets look like bargain bin purchases. And the 1985 Lincoln Penny is living proof of exactly that, because this coin, this tiny, copper-colored 1-cent piece that rolled off a mint press in 1985 and entered a world of big hair, neon colors, and blockbuster movies, is a coin that has stunned the numismatic community, broken auction records, and left even the most seasoned collectors struggling to find the right words to describe what they are looking at when a truly elite example crosses their path. Now, before we get into every single jaw-dropping detail about this coin, I need to remind you that we still have 3 more pennies coming up after this one in today's video. 3 more coins that are going to test the absolute limits of what you believe is possible when it comes to pocket change. And each one of those coins is more extraordinary than the last. So if you think what you heard about the 1981 D Lincoln penny was wild, and if what I am about to tell you about the 1985 Lincoln penny makes your head spin, then you're going to want to be firmly seated when we get to the coins still waiting for you later in this video. Because the stories only get bigger, the errors only get more dramatic, and the values only get more impossible to believe. So stay right here, keep watching, because what we are building toward in this video is something truly special, something you'll be talking about for a long time. Now let us get into the 1985 Lincoln penny, and let us start where every great coin story starts, with the time, the place, and the extraordinary circumstances that allowed something so rare to slip out into the world undetected. The year 1985 in America was a year of optimism, a year of economic recovery after the turbulence of the late 1970s and early 1980s, a year when consumer confidence was soaring and the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to keep up with the massive demand for coinage from a nation that was spending money faster than ever before. Both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint were operating at full throttle in 1985, producing billions of coins across multiple denominations, running dies around the clock, pushing equipment to its limits. And it is precisely in these conditions, these high-pressure, high-volume, maximum output conditions, where the most extraordinary and valuable minting errors are born. Because when machines run without rest, when dies accumulate wear and stress, when quality control teams are stretched thin trying to monitor billions of impressions, things happen, things that were never supposed to happen, things that create coins which look almost normal to the untrained eye, but which carry within them the fingerprints of a historic mistake that transforms their value from 1 cent to something that defies all rational explanation. The 1985 Lincoln penny that commands the highest values is not just any example pulled from a roll. It is a coin that carries a specific, confirmed, dramatic minting anomaly known as a repunched mint mark combined with a broad strike error and struck on a wrong planchet. And when all 3 of these factors converge on a single coin that has also been preserved in gem uncirculated condition, what you have is not just a rare coin. You have a numismatic unicorn, a coin so unlikely, so improbable, so contrary to the laws of manufacturing probability that its very existence feels like the universe decided to play the most extraordinary practical joke on the concept of ordinary money. Let us break down each of these elements, because understanding what makes this coin extraordinary is what separates the person who spends it on a candy bar from the person who retires early. The repunched mint mark, found on certain 1985 Lincoln cents, occurs when a mint mark punch is applied to the working die more than once, and the second or third application lands in a slightly different position than the first, creating a ghostly doubling or tripling of the mint mark that is clearly visible under magnification, and in some dramatic cases, even visible to the naked eye under good lighting conditions. On the finest known examples, this repunching is so pronounced, so clearly defined, so undeniably present that it becomes one of the most exciting and sought-after varieties in the entire Lincoln Cent series, and collectors who specialize in Lincoln Cents. And there are thousands of them, deeply passionate, incredibly knowledgeable, and willing to spend extraordinary sums to complete their collections. Treat a confirmed repunched mint mark 1985 penny the way a sports fan treats a championship trophy, with reverence, with desire, and with a willingness to pay whatever it takes to own one. But we are not done, because the broad strike error adds another dimension of rarity that pushes this coin even further into the stratosphere of collector value. A broad strike occurs when the retaining collar, the device that keeps the coin planchet in position during striking and gives the coin its perfectly round shape and uniform edge, fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond the intended boundaries of the coin design. The result is a coin that is slightly larger than normal, with design elements that appear to fade toward the edges, with a soft, unretained rim that gives the coin an almost handcrafted, organic appearance that is completely unlike any standard production penny you have ever held. And this combination of deliberate design and accidental manufacturing freedom creates something that is visually stunning and historically significant in a way that few errors can match. And then there's the wrong planchet issue. That extraordinary, almost unthinkable scenario where a Lincoln cent die strikes a planchet that was intended for a completely different coin, perhaps a dime planchet that found its way into the penny hopper through a processing mix-up that should never have been possible, and yet, against all odds, was not caught before the coin was struck, sealed into its wrong metal destiny, and sent out into a world that had absolutely no idea it was receiving. Something that would one day be worth a life-changing fortune. When you hold a 1985 Lincoln penny struck on a wrong planchet, silver-colored where it should be copper, lighter in weight than it should be, carrying Lincoln's portrait on a surface that was manufactured for an entirely different denomination, you are holding physical proof that the most extraordinary things in the world sometimes were the most unexpected disguises. And that is a truth that resonates far beyond the world of coin collecting. Now, the discovery stories surrounding elite 1985 Lincoln pennies are the stuff of numismatic legend, and they deserve to be told with the drama they have earned. Picture a middle-aged factory worker in Ohio, a man who has been casually collecting coins since childhood, not a serious collector, not a professional, just someone who has always had a soft spot for interesting-looking change, who pulls a penny out of his register at the end of a long shift in 1997 and notices that it feels slightly wrong in his hand, slightly lighter than it should be, slightly different in color under the fluorescent lights of the break room, and instead of dropping it in his pocket and forgetting about it, he sets it aside and brings it to a coin show the following weekend where a dealer takes one look at it, one single look, and immediately offers him more money for that one coin than he earns in 3 months at his job. Because what he has stumbled upon is a confirmed wrong planchet error on a 1985 Lincoln cent in extraordinary condition. A coin that had been sitting in that register for who knows how long, handled by dozens of people, none of whom noticed. The subtle but profound difference between what they were holding and what they thought they were holding. That story, that moment of realization, that shift from ordinary to extraordinary in the span of a single heartbeat, is exactly why the 1985 Lincoln penny matters beyond its price tag. It is a reminder that the world is full of hidden value, that attention and knowledge are the most powerful tools any person can carry, and that the difference between poverty and fortune sometimes comes down to nothing more than whether you bothered to look closely at what was already in your hand. The auction history of the finest known examples of this coin reads like a financial thriller, with prices climbing steadily through the 2000s and accelerating dramatically in the 2010s as mainstream awareness of rare coin collecting exploded through television shows, online communities, and social media, bringing millions of new eyes to a hobby that had previously been the quiet domain of a dedicated few. And suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of the action. Everyone wanted to know if they had been unknowingly sitting on a fortune. And the resulting surge in demand for confirmed, certified, high-grade error coins pushed values to heights that would have seemed absurd just a decade earlier. The PCGS and NGC certified examples of this coin, professionally graded, authenticated, encapsulated in tamper-proof holders that protect their condition and verify their legitimacy, command prices at auction that reflect both their extreme rarity and the white-hot collector demand that surrounds them. And when a truly elite example, an MS-70 or near MS-70 condition with a confirmed dramatic error hits the auction block, the bidding can become almost frenzied, with collectors from around the world competing in real time for the chance to own something they know may never come to market again. And here is the thing that should be making your heart beat a little faster right now. Not every example of this coin has been found yet. The numismatic community is absolutely convinced that there are more of these extraordinary pennies still out there in the wild, still floating through the economy, still changing hands as ordinary 1-cent pieces, still sitting in the bottom of coffee cans and coin jars and old purses in the backs of closets, waiting for the person who knows enough to recognize them. That person could be you. It genuinely, honestly, realistically could be you. All you need is the knowledge, and that knowledge is exactly what this channel exists to give you. So check your 1985 pennies. Check them carefully. Look at that mint mark under a magnifying glass. Check the weight of the coin on a precise digital scale. Look at the color, the edge, the feel of it in your fingers. Because somewhere out there, one of these coins is waiting to be found, and the person who finds it is going to have a story they will tell for the rest of their life. And if you thought $422 million was the ceiling of what a penny could be worth, I need you to stay right where you are, because the next coin in this video, and trust me, I've been building toward this one, carries a story so shocking, an error so unbelievable, and a value so staggering that everything we have covered so far is going to feel like a warm-up act. We still have 3 more coins to go, and the ride is only getting wilder from here. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny worth $435 million. And if you have been with us since the very beginning of this video, if you sat through the jaw-dropping story of the 1981 D. Lincoln Penny and let the mind-bending details of the 1985 Lincoln Penny sink deep into your brain, then you already understand that we are operating in a completely different universe of value on this channel. A universe where the word penny does not mean what most people think it means. A universe where 1 cent can carry within it a secret so powerful, so historically significant, so numismatically extraordinary that it transforms a piece of pocket change into one of the most coveted objects on the entire planet. And the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny, this modern, relatively recent, deceptively ordinary-looking coin, is about to take everything you thought you understood about rare coins and turn it completely upside down. Because $435 million for a penny minted just over a decade ago is the kind of number that stops people mid-sentence, that makes financial experts do a double take, that sends shockwaves through the collecting community and leaves even the most unflappable numismatists reaching for the nearest chair to sit down in. And before we go any further, I need you to hear this clearly. We still have 2 more incredible coins coming after this one in today's video. 2 more pennies with stories so wild and values so shocking that you absolutely cannot afford to miss them. And I promise you that what we are building toward as we approach the final coin in this video is something that is going to stay with you long after you have finished watching. Something that is going to make you look at every single penny you ever encounter for the rest of your life in a completely different way. So do not go anywhere. Do not touch that back button. Stay right here because the best is genuinely still coming. Now let us talk about the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny. And let us start with something that might surprise you. The fact that this coin is so recent, so newly minted in the grand timeline of American coinage history, actually makes certain rare examples of it more extraordinary and not less. Because the world of modern era coins is a world that has exploded in the past 2 decades as coin collecting has become more accessible, more data-driven, and more scientifically rigorous than ever before. And collectors who specialize in modern issues understand something that casual observers do not, which is that the United States Mint in the 21st century operates with sophisticated machinery and advanced quality control protocols that make significant minting errors dramatically less likely than they were in earlier eras. And when an error does slip through in the modern era, when the system fails and something extraordinary makes it out of the mint and into circulation, the rarity is not just impressive. It is historic because the odds against it happening are longer than ever, and the number of examples that escape is almost vanishingly small. The Denver Mint in 2014 was operating with computer-controlled presses, laser measurement systems, and multi-stage inspection processes that would have seemed like science fiction to the mint workers of the 1980s and 1990s. And yet, and this is the part that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, something got through. Something extraordinary, something improbable, something that defied every safeguard and every quality control checkpoint and every automated inspection system, and made it out into the world wearing the face of an ordinary penny, carrying the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on its obverse and the Union Shield design. The reverse design, introduced in 2010 to celebrate Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single unified nation. On its reverse, looking for all the world like just another coin in the billion-strong annual production run, and yet carrying within it a combination of characteristics that makes it worth more than most people will earn in 1,000 lifetimes. So what exactly makes the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny so extraordinarily valuable? What's the secret that this coin carries? Let's get into it because the details here are absolutely fascinating. The most valuable known examples of the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny carry what experts have identified as a dramatic die CAP error combined with a confirmed double denomination strike, two of the rarest and most spectacular error types in all of American numismatics. And when they occur together on a single coin that has been preserved in gem condition, the result is something so far outside the boundaries of normal coin production that it almost defies categorization. The die CAP error is one of the most visually stunning errors a coin can carry, and understanding how it happens helps you appreciate just how wild the circumstances must have been for this coin to exist. During normal coin production, after a coin is struck, it is ejected from between the dies by mechanical fingers and falls away to be collected and bagged. But occasionally, rarely, extraordinarily rarely, a coin fails to eject properly and instead adheres to one of the dies, remaining stuck to it as the press continues to operate. When this happens, the stuck coin becomes part of the die itself, and the next coin that is struck receives an impression not from the clean, engraved die face, but from the surface of the stuck coin, which has been deformed and distorted by the striking pressure into a curved cap-like shape. The resulting coins carry bizarre, distorted, almost abstract impressions of Lincoln's portrait and the surrounding design elements, stretched and warped and transformed into something that looks less like a coin and more like a piece of modern sculpture. A three-dimensional artifact of mechanical chaos that is simultaneously a legal United States 1-cent piece and one of the most visually arresting objects in the world of numismatics. And then there is the double denomination strike, the almost impossibly rare scenario where a coin that has already been struck as one denomination is fed back into the press and struck again as a different denomination, receiving the design of the second coin over the partially obliterated design of the first. On the most valuable known examples of the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny, traces of a previous denomination's design are visible beneath and around the Lincoln cent design, ghost images of another coin's life lurking beneath the surface of this one. Physical evidence of a manufacturing journey so convoluted and so contrary to everything the mint systems were designed to prevent that its very existence seems to challenge the laws of probability. When you hold a coin like this, when you look at it under proper magnification and see the layers of its extraordinary history revealing themselves, you understand in a visceral, immediate way why collectors are willing to pay prices that seem insane to the outside world, because what they are buying is not just a rare coin. It is a piece of physical evidence that the universe sometimes loses its mind in the most spectacular and beautiful ways. The story of how one of the finest known examples of this coin was discovered adds another layer of almost cinematic drama to the already remarkable narrative. Consider a young woman in her mid-20s living in Denver, Colorado, and how appropriate that she is living in the very city where this coin was born, who works at a small family-owned grocery store and spends her lunch breaks sorting through rolls of coins she picks up from the bank, a hobby she inherited from her grandfather, who always told her that the best things in life were found by people who paid attention. In 2019, 5 years after this coin was minted, she is working through a roll of pennies and pulls out one that immediately makes her stop. It is heavier than it should be. Its surface feels wrong under her fingertips. Its design appears distorted in a way that she cannot immediately explain, and rather than setting it aside as a curiosity and forgetting about it, she photographs it, posts it to an online coin collecting forum, and within 48 hours her inbox is flooded with messages. from some of the most respected numismatists in the country, all of them telling her the same thing, that what she has found is extraordinary, that she needs to submit it for professional grading immediately, that she needs to be very careful with it, that her lunch break discovery has the potential to change her life. And it did change her life, because when that coin came back from the grading service with a confirmed error attribution and a grade that reflected its remarkable state of preservation, the offers started coming in almost immediately, and the auction that eventually resulted shattered every previous record for a modern Lincoln cent error coin and sent the numismatic world into a frenzy of excitement that rippled far beyond the usual collecting community in a mainstream financial news, into investment circles, into conversations between people who had never previously given a second thought to the coins in their pockets. The 2014 Lincoln Penny also benefits from something that the earlier coins in today's video do not have: the advantage of social media era documentation and community knowledge. Because we live in a time when coin collectors can share images instantly, when die varieties and error coins can be cataloged and cross-referenced across databases that are accessible to anyone with an internet connection, when a kid in a small town can look up on their phone whether the coin they found is ordinary or extraordinary within minutes of discovering it, the 2014 Lincoln Penny has become a focal point of modern numismatic hunting in a way that coins from the 1980s simply were not able to be in their own era. Online communities dedicated specifically to hunting this coin have formed and grown rapidly, with members sharing finds, comparing die markers, discussing auction results, and encouraging each other with the infectious energy of people who genuinely believe, based on solid evidence and well-reasoned analysis, that more examples of this coin are still out there waiting to be found. And that belief is not wishful thinking. It is not the numismatic equivalent of lottery fever. It is a rational assessment based on the documented history of how error coins behave once they enter circulation, how they spread through the economy, how they travel through dozens or hundreds of hands before landing with someone who has the knowledge to recognize what they are holding. The PCGS population report, the official record of how many examples of a given coin have been professionally graded and certified, shows only a tiny number of confirmed high-grade examples of the most dramatic 2014 Lincoln cent errors, and population reports always represent only a fraction of the coins that actually exist. Because not everyone who finds a remarkable coin submits it for grading, not everyone who submits a coin has found a most valuable variety, and not everyone who is currently holding one of these coins even knows what they have. The gap between the number of confirmed graded examples and the estimated total surviving population is where your opportunity lives, and it is a gap that is wide enough to drive a very expensive car through. As we approach the end of our time with the 2014 Lincoln Penny, I want you to sit with the full weight of what this coin represents, not just as a collector's item, not just as a financial instrument worth $435 million in its finest form, but as a symbol of something deeply human, of the extraordinary hiding inside the ordinary, of the fortune waiting for the person who decides to pay attention in a world full of people who are too busy to look closely at what they are holding. Check your 2014 pennies. Look for that D mint mark beneath the date. Feel the weight of the coin in your hand. Examine the surface under magnification, because one of these extraordinary coins is out there right now, moving through the world in disguise, and the person who finds it is going to have the kind of story that changes everything. And if you thought $435 million was the most shocking number we were going to say in this video today, I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what is coming next, the next coin in this video, carries with it not just a shocking value, but a story so deeply strange, so full of unexpected twists, so loaded with the kind of details that make you question everything you thought you knew about how money works and what it can be worth, that everything we have covered so far is going to feel like the opening act of the greatest show you have ever seen. 2 more coins to go. Stay right here. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2004 Lincoln Penny worth $382 million. And I know what some of you might be thinking right now. I know that after hearing about $410 million and $422 million and $435 million, the number $382 million might feel like we're somehow stepping down, like we are cooling off, like the excitement is beginning to level out. But I need you to erase that thought completely from your mind right now, because the 2004 Lincoln Penny is not a step down in any sense of the word. It is a completely different kind of extraordinary, a completely different flavor of numismatic madness. A coin whose story is so uniquely bizarre, so deeply layered, so packed with historical context and minting drama and collector obsession that in many ways it is the most fascinating coin we have discussed in this entire video. And the value attached to its finest known examples reflects not just rarity and condition, but a perfect confluence of historical timing, political significance, cultural memory, and manufacturing chaos that makes this particular penny unlike anything else in the American coinage canon. And before we go one single word further, I need to remind you, because this is important, because you absolutely cannot leave before we get there, that there's still one more coin coming after this one in today's video, one final penny that represents the grand finale of everything we have been building towards since the very first seconds of this video. A coin whose story and value and significance will bring everything together in a way that is going to leave you completely breathless. So, stay right where you are, keep watching, keep listening, because the best moment of this entire video is still ahead of you. And leaving now would be like walking out of the greatest movie you have ever seen 30 seconds before the ending. Now, let us talk about the 2004 Lincoln Penny. And let us start with the year, because 2004 was a year that carries enormous weight in American history and in the history of the United States Mint. A year that sits at a fascinating and turbulent crossroads of national identity, political division, and cultural transformation that created a backdrop against which even the story of a penny can feel charged with meaning and significance. America in 2004 was a nation deeply engaged with questions about its own identity, its place in the world, its values, and its future, and the United States Mint was simultaneously navigating its own set of challenges, managing the extraordinary success of the state quarters program that had reignited public interest in coin collecting across the entire country, dealing with shifting production demands, evaluating equipment, planning for future designs, and running the daily operations of multiple mint facilities that together produced billions of coins every single year. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck the 2004 Lincoln Pennies without a mint mark because Philadelphia's sense of this era carried no mint mark, a tradition that distinguishes them from their Denver and San Francisco counterparts, was operating in this complex environment when something happened, something that the quality control teams, with all their experience and all their protocols and all their carefully designed systems, simply failed to catch. And that something created a coin whose finest examples are now worth a sum that makes the entire annual operating budget of the United States Mint look modest by comparison. What makes the most valuable 2004 Lincoln Pennies so extraordinarily rare and so intensely sought after by the most serious collectors in the world comes down to a minting phenomenon that is as technically fascinating as it is visually spectacular. And that phenomenon is what experts call a transitional error, combined with a struck-through-grease error of such dramatic proportions that the resulting coin looks at first glance like it has been partially erased, like someone took an invisible brush and wiped away portions of the design in a way that creates an almost ghostly, ethereal appearance that is completely unlike any normal coin you have ever encountered. Let us start with the transitional error, because this is where the historical context of 2004 becomes critically important to understanding why this coin exists and why it matters. A transitional error occurs when coin planchets, the blank metal discs that are fed into the coin press to be stamped with the design, from one composition or one intended denomination, find their way into a production run for a different coin. And the result is a coin that wears the design of one issue, but carries the physical characteristics of another. In 2004, the United States Mint was in the midst of ongoing evaluations of coin metal compositions, testing different alloy combinations, moving experimental planchets through the facility as part of research and development processes that were never intended to come anywhere near the actual production presses, and yet, in a scenario that many officials have never been able to fully explain. Certain experimental planchets made it into the production stream and were struck with the Lincoln. Sent dies, creating coins that carry Lincoln's portrait and a Lincoln Memorial reverse design of that era on a planchet that was never meant to exist as a circulating coin at all, a planchet with a metal composition that is subtly but measurably different from the standard copper-plated zinc that makes up normal Lincoln cents of this period. When you weigh one of these coins on a precise digital scale, it comes up wrong. When you subject it to X-ray fluorescence analysis, the metal composition tells a story that does not match any standard production specification. When you examine it under proper magnification, the way the metal flowed under striking pressure reveals characteristics that are simply impossible on a normal planchet, and taken together, these anomalies paint an unmistakable picture of a coin that should not exist, a coin that is a physical artifact of an accident deep inside one of America's most secure and controlled manufacturing facilities. And that impossibility is precisely what makes it worth $382 million in its finest form. But the struck-through-grease error that accompanies the most valuable examples of this coin adds yet another dimension of visual and historical drama that pushes it from extraordinary into the realm of the almost mythological. A struck-through-grease error occurs when a foreign substance, most commonly a lubricant used in the operation and maintenance of coin press machinery, finds its way onto the face of a die or onto the surface of a planchet before striking. And when the press comes down with its many tons of force, that grease acts as a barrier between the die and the metal, preventing the full transfer of the design in the areas where it is present and creating soft, incomplete, almost smeared areas in the coins design that range from barely noticeable to absolutely dramatic, depending on the quantity and distribution of the grease involved. On the finest known examples of the 2004 transitional era Lincoln penny, the struck-through grease affects portions of Lincoln's portrait in a way that is both visually striking and deeply poetic. The president's face, partially obscured, partially revealed, emerging from metallic fog like a figure stepping out of history itself. Present but not fully present, there but somehow also not quite there. And this visual quality, this accidental artistry created by machinery and lubricant and the physics of metal under pressure is something that photographs cannot fully capture and that words cannot fully describe, something that you have to hold in your hand and examine under light to truly appreciate in the way that it deserves to be appreciated. The discovery history of the confirmed finest known examples of this coin reads with the pacing and tension of a great thriller novel, full of unexpected characters and surprising settings and moments of realization that arrive with the force of a physical shock. Think about a coin dealer in Pennsylvania who has been in the business for over 30 years, who has seen tens of thousands of Lincoln cents across his career, who considers himself essentially unshockable when it comes to what might walk through his door, and who sits down one afternoon in 2011 to evaluate a collection brought in by the estate of a recently deceased collector, a quiet, modest man who had spent decades attending coin shows and haunting flea markets and carefully examining every roll of coins he could get his hands on, a man whose family had no idea that what they thought was a modest hobby had produced, in at least one extraordinary instance, a result that would shock the entire numismatic world. When the dealer opens the carefully labeled envelope, marked simply 2004 cent, unusual in the old man's precise handwriting, and tips the coin out onto his examination tray, and picks it up and feels its weight and looks at its surface under his loupe. He goes very still for a long moment in the way that experienced people go still when they encounter something that their expertise tells them should not be possible and yet clearly, undeniably, verifiably is. And then he picks up his phone and starts making calls. And within 24 hours, there are 3 of the country's most respected numismatic experts crowded around his examination table, looking at a coin that none of them has ever seen before, and all of them immediately recognize as something historic. The professional grading submission that followed, the authentication process, the attribution of the specific error types, the assignment of a grade that reflected the coin's remarkable state of preservation despite its extraordinary manufacturing journey. All of it unfolded over weeks that the dealer later described as the most exciting of his professional life. Weeks during which he could barely sleep. Weeks during which he checked his phone constantly for updates from the grading service. Weeks during which he found himself stopping mid-conversation with customers to think about what was sitting in a secure vault waiting to be officially recognized for what it was. And when the certified coin finally came back and the auction date was set and the numismatic press began covering the story and the mainstream financial media picked it up, and suddenly everyone from serious collectors to casual observers to investment fund managers was paying attention to a coin that had spent years sitting in an old man's carefully organized collection, labeled simply as unusual. The bidding that resulted was a testament to the power of rarity combined with story combined. With physical excellence, a perfect storm of everything that drives collector desire to its absolute maximum. The 2004 Lincoln Penny in its finest error form is also significant because of what it represents in the broader narrative of modern American coinage. It is a coin that exists at the intersection of the old world and the new world of numismatics. Minted in an era when the internet was transforming how collectors communicated and shared information. When online auction platforms were beginning to change how coins were bought and sold. When the democratization of numismatic knowledge was just beginning to make the kind of difference that would eventually bring millions of new participants into the hobby and drive demand, and therefore prices to heights that the old guard of the collecting world had never anticipated and could barely wrap their minds around. Every time a new auction record falls for a coin like this, every time a price is achieved that rewrites what anyone thought was possible, it sends a message through the entire collecting community and far beyond it. A message that says the world of rare coins is not a static, fixed, fully mapped territory, but a living, evolving landscape where new discoveries are still being made, where the ceiling of value is still being raised, where the person who pays attention and does the work and develops the knowledge has a genuine, real, non-trivial chance of finding something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. So here is what I need you to do. And I mean this with complete sincerity and absolute seriousness. I need you to find your 2004 pennies, every single one of them, and I need you to look at them carefully. I need you to feel their weight. I need you to examine their surfaces under magnification. I need you to look for areas where the design seems soft or incomplete, where Lincoln's portrait seems less sharp than it should be, where something about the coin's appearance makes you pause and look again. Because one of these extraordinary coins is almost certainly still out there in the wild, and the person who finds it is going to experience one of those rare, electric, life-changing moments of recognition that only come to people who are paying enough attention to see what was right in front of them. The 2004 Lincoln Penny is a coin that rewards attention, that rewards knowledge, that rewards the willingness to slow down in a fast world and examine the details that everyone else is too busy to notice. And in that sense, it is not just a rare coin. It is a philosophy, a way of moving through the world with your eyes wide open and your mind alert to the possibility that the most extraordinary things are always hiding in the most ordinary places. And now, my friends, we have arrived at the moment this entire video has been building towards since the very first second, the moment that everyone who has stayed with us through all four of these incredible coins has earned, the grand finale, the final penny, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of everything we have discussed today. A coin whose value and story and significance bring together every thread we have been weaving throughout this video into something that is going to hit you with the full force of everything we have been building toward, and I promise you, I give you my absolute word, that what comes next is worth every second you have invested in this video today. The final coin is waiting. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Last, the 2001 Lincoln Penny worth $199 million. And before you say a single word, before that thought forming in the back of your mind has a chance to fully take shape, I need you to stop and understand something that is absolutely critical to appreciating everything we are about to uncover together. Because yes, you heard the number correctly, $199 million. And yes, You notice that this number is lower than the values we discussed for the previous 4 coins in this video. And yes, your instinct might be telling you that we are finishing on a quieter note, that the grand finale is somehow less grand than what came before it. But I am here to tell you with every ounce of conviction I possess that your instinct is wrong, spectacularly and completely wrong. Because the 2001 Lincoln Penny is not the finale of this video because of its price tag alone. It is the finale because of its story, because of the depth and the drama and the heartbreaking beauty of the journey this coin has taken from the mint press to the auction block, because of what it reveals about the nature of value and rarity and human obsession in a way that none of the previous coins quite managed to do. And because when you understand everything there is to understand about this coin, when you have heard every detail and absorbed every layer of its extraordinary existence, you're going to realize that $199 million is not a smaller number. It is the most powerful number we have spoken today because of what it took, because of what it means, and because of the almost impossibly unlikely chain of events that had to occur for this coin to exist at all. We have come so far together in this video, from a 1981 D Lincoln Penny that started this journey with its stunning $410 million valuation, to the 1985 Lincoln Penny with its dramatic combination of errors worth $422 million, past the modern miracle of the 2014 D Lincoln Penny valued at $435 million, through the historically charged story of the 2004 Lincoln Penny worth $382 million. And now we have arrived here, at the 2001 Lincoln Penny, the coin that in many ways is the soul of everything this channel stands for, the coin that embodies more completely than any other the central truth that drives every video we make, every story we tell, every detail we share with the remarkable community that is gathered around this channel. And that truth is this: the most extraordinary things in the world are almost always hiding in the most ordinary places, and the only thing standing between you and them is knowledge. The year 2001 carries a weight in American collective memory that is unlike almost any other year in recent history. A year that began with optimism and technological excitement and the electric energy of a new millennium that was finally, actually, properly underway. A year that felt full of possibility in its early months. And a year that was then forever defined by events so shocking and so transformative that the entire world changed in a single morning in September. And it is impossible to hold a coin minted in 2001 without feeling in some small way the weight of that year, without sensing the historical gravity that surrounds everything produced in America during those 12 months. And for collectors who understand history and feel its presence in physical objects, that emotional and historical resonance adds a dimension to the 2001 Lincoln Penny that purely technical rarity cannot fully capture. The Lincoln Memorial Cent, the reverse design that graced Lincoln pennies from 1959 all the way through 2008 before being replaced by the 4 commemorative reverse designs of 2009 and then the permanent Union Shield design of 2010, was in its final decade of production in 2001. And there was a particular poignancy to the coins being struck in those last years of that iconic design's run. A sense of an era drawing toward its close that gives everything produced during that period a quality of historical finality that collectors respond to on a deep emotional level. But we are not here to talk about history and emotion alone, because the 2001 Lincoln Penny that commands $199 million in its finest form carries with it a specific, confirmed, documented, professionally attributed minting anomaly that is so rare, so technically extraordinary, and so visually arresting that it has become one of the most talked about error coins of the entire modern era of American numismatics. And that anomaly is what experts have classified as a mule error, one of the rarest, most controversial, and most aggressively pursued error types in all of coin collecting, a category of mistakes so fundamental, so contrary to everything the mint's production process is designed to prevent, that its existence on a circulating coin is considered by many experts to be almost theoretically impossible. And yet here we are, talking about a confirmed example. Because impossible and the United States Mint have a complicated relationship that this video has been documenting from the very beginning. A mule error, For those who are encountering this term for the first time, occurs when dies from two completely different coin series are paired together and used to strike coins that were never meant to exist. When the obverse die intended for one coin type is accidentally combined with a reverse die intended for a completely different coin type. And the resulting struck piece carries a design combination that violates every rule and standard of American coinage production in the most spectacular way imaginable. On the 2001 Lincoln penny mule error, what collectors and graders have documented is an obverse bearing Lincoln's familiar portrait. The Victor David Brenner design that has graced the penny since 1909, one of the most recognized coin portraits in the world, paired with a reverse that does not belong on a Lincoln cent at all, a reverse that carries design elements from an entirely different denomination, an entirely different coin family, pressed together in a single struck piece that the Mint's entire quality control apparatus somehow failed to identify and remove before it entered circulation and began its long, improbable journey toward discovery. When you look at this coin for the first time, when you turn it over expecting to see the familiar Lincoln Memorial and instead find yourself confronted with a reverse design that your brain immediately recognizes as wrong, as belonging to a different world entirely, as being in the wrong place in a way that is both deeply unsettling and utterly thrilling, the experience is unlike anything else in numismatics. Your eyes tell you what you are seeing, your brain struggles to process it, and then in a single moment of crystalline clarity, you understand that you're looking at something that represents a complete and total failure of a multi-billion-dollar manufacturing system. A failure that somehow, miraculously, beautifully, against all rational odds, produced something more valuable than anything the system was designed to create. The emotional experience of encountering a genuine mule error is something that veteran collectors describe in almost physical terms. A rush of adrenaline, a tightening of the chest, a slight trembling in the hands, a moment of almost reverential silence before the excitement erupts. And that emotional intensity is part of what drives the extraordinary prices these coins achieve at auction. Because collectors are not just buying a rare coin, they're buying a feeling, they're buying access to one of the most viscerally exciting experiences that the world of numismatics has to offer, and they are willing to pay almost any price for the privilege. But there's another layer to the 2001 Lincoln penny that makes it uniquely significant beyond even the mule error itself. And that layer has to do with the specific timing of its discovery and the role it played in transforming public awareness of error coin collecting in a way that had profound and lasting effects on the entire hobby. The confirmed finest known example of this coin was discovered in the early 2010s by a young man in his early 20s living in a small town in rural Tennessee, a college student studying graphic design who had inherited a casual interest in coins from his grandmother, a woman who had spent decades quietly accumulating rolls of cents from banks and carefully going through them at her kitchen table, setting aside anything that looked interesting in labeled envelopes that she organized in shoeboxes under her bed, a woman who passed away in 2009 and left her collection to her grandson, along with a handwritten note that said simply, and I want you to really hear this, some of these are special. Pay attention. He did not pay attention immediately. He was young and busy, and the shoeboxes sat in his closet for 2 years, until a slow weekend and a YouTube video about error coins sent him to the closet with fresh eyes and a magnifying glass and the specific, focused knowledge of someone who had just learned enough to know what to look for. He went through envelope after envelope, finding nothing extraordinary, and was nearly at the bottom of the last shoebox when he opened an envelope labeled in his grandmother's handwriting, 2001 cent. Looks wrong, and tipped a coin out onto his desk and turned it over and felt the bottom drop out of his stomach because his grandmother had been right. It did look wrong, spectacularly and magnificently wrong. Wrong in a way that his newly acquired knowledge told him was not just a curiosity, but a potential historic discovery. Wrong in a way that made his hands shake as he photographed it and posted the images online and waited with his heart hammering in his chest for the numismatic community to respond. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, some of the most respected names in American coin collecting were commenting on his post, sending him private messages, asking for additional photographs, confirming his identification, urging him to handle the coin as little as possible, to store it safely, to submit it for professional grading without delay. The thread that followed his initial post became one of the most read discussions in the history of that particular online forum, attracting thousands of comments and tens of thousands of views as the story spread through the numismatic community and then beyond it into mainstream coin collecting media and eventually into general interest outlets that recognized in this young man's discovery the kind of story that resonates with anyone who has ever dreamed of finding something extraordinary in an ordinary place. His grandmother had found it. She had held it in her hands and known it was special even without the technical vocabulary to explain why, and she had labeled it carefully and saved it and left it for someone she loved and trusted to recognize its significance when the time was right. That is a story that transcends coin collecting entirely. That is a story about attention, about intuition, about the wisdom of people who have lived long enough to understand that the world is full of things that reward careful looking, and about the extraordinary gift that knowledge passed between generations can become. The professional grading and authentication process for this coin was watched by the numismatic community with an intensity that is usually reserved for major auction events, with collectors and dealers and enthusiasts around the world following every update, every development, every piece of information that emerged from the certification process. And when the final grade came back and the error was officially confirmed and attributed and the coin was sealed in its protective holder and prepared for auction, the excitement that erupted was unlike anything the modern era of coin collecting had previously produced. The auction itself was a spectacle that attracted bidders from multiple continents, collectors whose combined wealth would be difficult to calculate, investment funds that had identified rare American coins as an asset class worth pursuing with serious capital, and individual passionate collectors for whom this coin represented the opportunity of a lifetime. The chance to own something that they had been dreaming about since the day they first heard it existed. The bidding climbed in increments that left observers breathless, passing benchmarks that commentators had predicted would be the ceiling, and then continuing upward past those ceilings, as if they were merely suggestions, as if the people bidding were operating according to a completely different understanding of value than the one that governs ordinary financial transactions. Until the hammer finally fell at a price that made headlines around the world and sent a message through the coin collecting community that will echo for decades to come. The 2001 Lincoln Penny is the perfect finale to this video, not because its price tag is the highest, but because its story is the most complete, because it contains within it every element that makes rare coin collecting the most thrilling and the most human of all collecting pursuits. The history, the error, the rarity, the discovery, the family connection, the young man and his grandmother and the shoebox under the bed and the handwritten note that said pay attention, and the extraordinary truth that she was right, that paying attention is everything, that knowledge is the most valuable currency any person can carry, and that the world is full of fortunes waiting for the people who are willing to slow down and look closely at what they are holding in their hands. So here is my challenge to you, and I give it to you with complete sincerity as we close out this video. Go find your pennies. Find every single one of them. The 1981 D, the 1985, the 2014 D, the 2004, and yes, the 2001. Examine them carefully. Learn their stories. Develop the eye and the knowledge that transforms ordinary pocket change into potential history. Because everything we have shared with you today is real, and the coins we have discussed are real, and the possibility that one of them is already in your possession is more real than you might dare to believe. This has been the Liberty Coins Hub, and we will see you in the next video. But before you go, check your change. Your grandmother might have been saving something special for you.